Well, greetings, people of the internet. Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today we're going to talk about, hey, what's with my rack? What do I have in my rack in there? What's that all about? So, any of you that have been around long enough know pretty much everything about Unky Joe's Playhouse. What I have in here, what I run, what equipment I run on, what software I prefer, etc. But there's a lot of you that I've started getting new subscribers that have no idea, and they don't go back and watch my own videos. So I thought it was time to do a little refresher on what I have. What powers Unky Joe's Playhouse Studio? What computers do I have? What networking equipment do I have? Phones, workstations, and today that's what this video is all about. So let's go over to the rack and we'll get started over there. So it's kind of a hot mess right now. Not really. It's, it's functional. I got my telco rack over here. My little baby rack. This is a MikroTik cloud switch that a subscriber sent to me. Just they didn't have a need for it. Underneath that is my Linksys/Cisco switch that, hell, it ran my network for years. Underneath that is a TiVo that we no longer use, and then we've got a NVIDIA Shield there. We've got some remote controls. I've got an amplifier for on the rack for when my office here, my studio, was a home theater. And then I got a couple more servers down. Look, I have a plethora of servers. So this one is Zeus. This is a AMD Ryzen 7 that somebody gifted to me. And it's got 4 2-terabyte hard drives in it. And it's running Windows right now, Windows Server 2019. It's kind of it's archival storage. It's for recompressing video. See, I get video in a format that I don't like. I like my videos small in size, not taking up a bunch of space. Well, this thing I can put it through there on a batch, and it'll go through there and redo the video in any format I want. Then I have Hephaestus. I don't know what's running on Hephaestus. I'll have to look it up. But anyway, and I've got my names and my IP addresses on top of all of my servers to help organize them. And then over on this side is the main rack. So here's my DS1621 from Synology. This Synology NAS is the backup of another client's NAS. I have their backup NAS here at my home rack. I've got a phone in here, a VoIP phone, so in case I need to call somebody when I'm here. It's an old Grandstream GXP 2120. I've got two Unify switches here. One is the Unify Switch 24. That is a 1 gig non-PoE Unify switch, and has SFP ports on the end of it. Got a little thermometer telling me the temperature in here, and all these come up to a patch panel. There's a few cables that come through there loose, but most of them go through the patch panel. Then I've got a 10 gig switch down here. Thank you, Sasha, for this generous donation. It has 4 Cat 5 connectors, or 10 base T connectors, and then the rest are SFP2 plugs, which then require a transceiver or a DAC cable. Some of these are DAC connections going down to my servers. Some of these are fiber connections, as you can see here. And then underneath that, I have a Netgear 24-port PoE switch that is dedicated to, well, everything PoE on my network, and that includes my cameras. Prior to that, I was using this tough switch right here that I have since retired. It works fine, but I just ran out of connectors for it. Over here is my pfSense firewall, and that's running on a little mini computer. Insert name of said computer system here. Then I have a UCM 6200 series This is my VoIP phone setup information computer. And then down below that is Prometheus. Prometheus is my i7 server, or I'm sorry, my i5-10400 server. Now this hosts, well, it hosts a lot of stuff. My Plex and MV. Let me put this fiber optic cable out of the way. It hosts my Plex, my MV. It's also a backup. It has four. Let's see, there's 3 2 terabyte and 1 4 terabyte drive in here. It serves as recording for my surveillance software, which is Blue Iris. And then it serves as archival storage for my media files off my DS1621. And Plex and MB run on it, and a couple of other programs. There's some virtual machines that run on here under Hyper-V. Coming back up here to the DS1621, this unit here runs my primary domain controller, my Windows 2019 domain controller for Unky Joe's Playhouse. And then this Synology NAS, which is my FS1018, thank you again, Sasha. This is an SSD filled with SSDs. I'll give you the specs here later. This is my really fast storage on the network I use for my video editing, for my virtual machines, that kind of thing. But it's also running another domain controller, my backup domain controller, so that even if I need to take one of these Synology flash stations down, I'll still have a domain controller. Then as we move further down on the rack, we have a Dell R620 that is called Dell 620. This hosts a Proxmox cluster with the Dell 720. Haven't got the cluster set up, but that's in the planning stages. Then underneath there are 2 Dell R710s. The top one has 3.5-inch hard drive bays, and the bottom one has 2.5-inch. And I keep these around for archival purposes. They're both running Server 2019 and Windows Hyper-V. These 2 units are both running Proxmox. And yeah, that's it. That's about it for my rack. Now the plan the plan was, this rack was on wheels so that I could easily pull it out and work behind it. But as you can see, I could end up pulling that rack out all the way to this door frame, and I'm still not going to have enough room to get behind it to do work on it. It's very seldom I need to do work on it, but I'd like to do it without falling on top of something sharp and piercing my heart or something, you know. So as you can see, everything's organized. I know what all the cables go to. They're all labeled, and they're here neatly. It's not a rat's nest. It looks like it, but it's not. And yeah, but sometimes I need to get behind there. For example, that R720 is getting ready to get a lot of items installed in it, and I want to be able to get behind it when I pull it, to pull it out and do some maintenance on it. But outside the rack, we have a couple of Lenovo servers on loan to us. One is the SRV 650 version 2. That's this one. We're going to be doing some interesting videos with that on some various topics. And then the one on top of that, this is like their tough server, made to be out in like edge computing. This is the SE450. And this son of a gun is loaded up with RAM and CPUs and network connections. This is the front, this is the back of them. Let me get a little light on the subject. These are out here on a cart. You can get the idea of the type of connections we have on there. I've even got a video card in this one down here. These are both running Proxmox as well. This one has 1100 watt power supply, so I can pretty much do anything with it I want to. This one, not so much. These are 750 watt power supplies. But I just don't have any use for these right now, but I am getting ready to do some projects, some AI computing and that kind of thing, and they're going to be excellent for that. On the floor here is my gaming unit. This is my old Ryzen 5 3600. It's got an NVIDIA or a... Yeah, I think it's got an NVIDIA video card. I don't remember, to be honest with you. I'll try to flash the specs up on the screen. The unit next to it is my Mac Pro. the last Mac Pro they made that was worth buying in my opinion, and I just got done updating that to the latest and greatest OS 10 software, and it is still keeping up. I do have to use a bootloader with it, and I put an SSD in there, but it keeps up, and it's not a bad computer, and it's just one of those computers I've always wanted to own. Then we've got another Mac Mini here up on the bench, right back there. That is from 2013. It's old. And it just barely runs OS 10 as it sits now. And then underneath that, I got a couple of old HP thin clients. I've got some Dells up here on my workbench. Got another phone here on the workbench. And then I got a couple of computers. One of those, a Dell R210, I just cannot give up, cannot part with. You ever get your hands on an R210 Model 2, keep it. There's so many projects you can run with it. And then underneath that is a Dell PowerEdge R730. This is for work. I'm prepping it to take to work, and as you can see, my workbench is kind of full. I got my little Alexa device up there. Alexa, say hello.
Hello.
There she is. Got our bench cam here. We have a monitor. Well, I wouldn't call this a monitor. Rather, I'd call it a TV. And a VGA DVI monitor under it. Then, of course, I've got a couple of monitors here and some joysticks for my gaming station. Honestly, I have hardly used this at all. And then over here we have the iMac. This actually belongs to a client of mine, and I brought it in here, did a clean load on it, just told him, it wasn't worth repairing, it wasn't worth donating because nobody wants them, but it makes for a good prop. So we set up here on a table, and it's a prop in the backdrop. And then there's my desk, which is a mess, but that'll give you an idea of how my layout is. And so this one is a brand new, well, it's new to me, 11th Gen i5 11400 processor. And I'll put the specs up. This is my old InWin case. I love it. It's got a DVD and a Blu-ray reader. I do my ripping of my DVDs and Blu-rays here at my main workstation. It's got a wonderful video card, lots of RAM, 32 gig of RAM. I've got two 24-inch HP monitors. These are about 2 years old. And one up here, an old Samsung that just refuses to die from my surveillance. And then on my desktop, I've got this wonderful Red Dragon clickety-clackety keyboard. I have a Stream Deck over here on the side. My phone, I've got a speed editor here on the desktop for editing videos, a USB 3 port. I got a switch, KVM switch, and then my Mac M2 Mini, Mac Mini M2. Why I bought it, I don't know, but I'll find a use for it. And then here's my microphone, my good old Blue Yeti. It never fails me. Well, so as you can see, we started at the rack and we worked our way around the room, or I should say this way. So you've got a good idea of everything that I have here at Unky Joe's Playhouse. Now, I don't use all this stuff at the same time. I do videos on things that, catch my interest at the time. But for the most case, most of this equipment sits around here idle. And you by no means, I got a YouTube channel. I've accumulated a lot of this shit over the years. You don't need all this stuff in your lab. You need half of it in your lab. But it's just when I refer to projects moving forward, or even previously to this video, I want you to be able to go, oh, I know where that machine is. That's the one on the rack, and it's got these specs. So that you have an idea, instead of me just assuming that when I say Prometheus, that you know what Prometheus is. So that's what this video is geared toward today. So then I can easily manage all these items. I either have iDRACs on them, like my Dell servers. They all have internal iDRAC controllers, which is basically a little computer. It's like having a Raspberry Pi KVM in every server computer that I can remotely connect onto through a web browser, turn on and off. I can mount media to install programs, that kind of thing. For example, my Synology NAS, as you've seen this interface before, gives you an idea of the CPU, the RAM, the storage space. You notice I've got a volume repairing right now. And real easy to get to. I can get all the information. I have two of these NAS. I have a DS1621 Plus and the FS 1018 that was donated by Sasha Lopez over in the UK. So I have these interfaces to get around in. And for pretty much everything else I use, I have this remote desktop connection manager. It's ages old, but it works really well. So if I want to connect up to Prometheus, I can do that through RDP. I've got RDP loaded on all of my servers and most of my workstations here. And I can just simply log into them and take them over remotely. So yeah, and here's Prometheus, and Prometheus is running, it's running Blue Iris, it's running Plesk, it's running Plex, it's running MB, and it's also running a plethora of Hyper-V machines. Docker, Hestia, my Minecraft server, my monitoring server, my another domain controller, a remote machine for a friend of mine, and it's all doing this on an i5-10400. No server required. I've in essence turned this into a server. So that'll give you an idea now moving ahead. When I refer to a certain piece of equipment, you'll know what it is that I'm talking about. And, again, you don't need all this equipment in your home lab, but I'm constantly trying to find new jobs for these servers. Now, Prometheus is my 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week server. It's on all the time, but it can handle the load, and it does it really efficiently as far as power goes. That server probably, for all of it, what it does, it consumes about 250 watts, which is a good draw. It's not bad at all. You've seen my switches. You've seen I've got a VoIP phone in there. I've got another rack that I'm contemplating tearing out of there so that I can get to my main rack. It works really well. Now, I've labeled all those connections on my switches, and that's why I have color-coded wiring on the patch panel, so I can actually turn from my chair here and go, is that okay, it's on that network. I color-code my VLANs, so red is VLAN whatever, blue is VLAN whatever, and green is the other VLAN. And then I buy little 3-foot cables or 1.5-foot cables, patch cables, so I know that to use it to identify that circuit is what I'm desperately trying to say. Anyway, so there it is. There's my rack. There is a lot of bits and pieces in there. Now, my Dell 620 and my 720 are both running Proxmox as a hypervisor. My Dell 710s are currently running Hyper-V, and my Prometheus is running Server 2019 with Hyper-V, but that's the operating system those are running. And I want to get VMware back in here in my lab as well, because I should just have it, to kick around. But I've got to decide what machines, because I want to do more than one machine, because if I do Proxmox, I always do 2 machines so I can have a failover machine, right? And stuff to do transfers of working machines and that kind of thing. Same way with VMware. So if I end up doing anything more with VMware, I'm going to want to set up a lab with it. The only problem is my Dell 710s are not suited for the current version of VMware, and I don't want to I don't want to devote the 720s or the 620s to that task. Maybe I'll have to buy a couple of 730s. I don't know. So there you go. Now you know. That's what I've got in my rack. The switches are all Unify, and I've been very happy with those switches. I've got a Netgear in there now, a PoE switch, to replace that 8-port old Unify, wasn't Unify, Tough Switch from Unify. So that's what I've got the Netgear in there, is to replace that switch. And it's been working great. I get no complaints. I have since switched over to a UCM 6202 for all my phone service. That's a Grand Stream unit, because I just got tired of dicking around with free PBX and 3CX had a breach. And, even though it didn't affect me, I was just like, no. I want something simple I can plug into the wall, program it, and leave it and go on about my life. That's what the UCM allows me to do. So I've got one of those in there. And then I've got the other device I have in there that I don't think I went over is the other Synology NAS, and that's for a client. That's their backup server is here at my site, so we have off-site backup for them. And that's basically it. That's what I have in there. That's what I run Unky Joe's Playhouse on, besides the solar stuff you see here next to me that powers everything. And we'll be coming around and doing videos about all the other stuff in there. But this way, at least when I talk about a server moving forward from now on, you can always come back to this video and reference what it was I was talking about. So anyway, we hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, please give us a thumbs up down below. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and click that notification bell to be notified of new videos when they come out. Donate if you're so inclined. PayPal, Patreon, YouTube join function, or just become a YouTube premium member and cut out all the fluff. Don't forget to come back and see us again, and please don't forget we'll see all of you on the other side.